Welcome to the online movement assessment. The goal of this activity is to gain an understanding of your movement capabilities so we can program more effectively. The first assessment is going to be a standing static assessment so we can do structural analysis. Although you will be taking this as a video, you want to make sure that you are holding each position for at least 3 to 5 seconds so I can take a screenshot so I can do a proper structural analysis. As you will see as the video rolls through, you're going to go from forward facing to the side to the back. Now we're going to have to get a more in-depth view of the lower legs, so make sure that we can see your knees all the way down to your feet, and we're going to go from a face-on view to a posterior view of the lower body.
The following test is the Apley's test. It's a simple test to determine range of motion at the shoulder. What we're going to do is take 2 different vantage points. The first one being from the side profile. So I'm going to take my arm, I'm going to reach as far as I can up the middle of my back, and I want you to just hold that position so we can get an idea of where your shoulder is sitting. Okay? The second vantage point is going to be from the back, so you're just going to turn, face the other way, and see what type of range of motion you have. You're going to repeat the test on the opposite side, holding that position and getting an angle from the back. You can use the Apley's test in the straight leg raise to help assess hip range of motion, but you have to score at least a 2, and what a 2 means is making sure that we can get our hand into the middle of our back. As you can see, I can do this without really compensating at the shoulder on the left-hand side, so I could use this as an assessment piece for my straight leg raise, but on the right side, as you will see, I have a pretty big compensation and I don't reach the middle of my back, so I'm not going to be able to use a hands under the back test when I perform the straight leg raise. So stay tuned, it'll give you a little bit more information on how to perform that test. The next test that we will be performing is going to be a seated rotation test. It's going to be very, very helpful to make sure that you have something that you can put between your knees. Foam roller, yoga block, pillow would also work very, very well. You do want things that are going to be a little bit more stiff, so it prevents us from rotating through the pelvis. So in order to set up, we're going to sit, and again, we want our hips and knees about 90 degrees. We're going to place something in between our legs so we can give that a little bit of a squeeze that's going to lock our pelvis in place. What you're then going to do is you're going to put a dowel or a broomstick across your shoulders, and you're going to sit up nice and tall. We want, again, the broomstick to be here, so it's going to give us a really good gauge of how far we rotate and won't allow us to cheat. So sitting up nice and tall, making sure that you're squeezing the block between your knees, and you're going to rotate as far as you can in one direction and hold that position. And then we're going to rotate as far as we can in the other direction. So that's it. That is the seated rotation test. The following test is the squat test. It's going to be a really simple test. There's a couple different things that we want to look for when we're setting up for this test. I would say that performing this test without shoes or without socks is probably the best case scenario, so we can see what's happening at the ankle and the foot. It depends what type of surface you're on. Sometimes actually keeping your socks on can be advantageous because we can see the turns that occur during the squat. What we're going to do is we're going to set up shoulder width apart, okay? And we want to make sure that when we get set up that our feet are really straight, okay? And throughout this exercise, we want to focus on, allowing our body to go where it wants to go. We don't necessarily want to really fight to get into better position here. So I just want you to squat and allow your body to go where it wants to go, all right? So from this position here, we're gonna start with the camera face on. We're gonna go into a squat pattern, okay? We wanna go nice and easy, take our time going through this. We don't wanna go too fast. We're then going to take a side profile. Again, we wanna make sure that our toes are nice and straight, okay? And we're going to squat. Okay? And lastly, we're going to take a profile video from the back. Again, make sure everything's lined up. All right, that is the squat test. The next test that you're going to perform is going to be a toe touch. There are some really common errors that we want to make sure that we do not do while we're performing the test. They're easiest to see from the side profile, so we're going to start there. But when we do the test, we want to make sure that we're taking a video from the front, from the side, and from behind to make sure that we're capturing every angle that we can. So we're going to start from the side. We want our feet really, really close together. When people perform this test, they tend to have a foot out or they're quite wide. We want our feet really, really close together because this is going to exaggerate any type of movement limitation that we have. So bring our feet nice close together. What you'll see most people make the mistake is as they go down, they're going to bend their knees as they go to touch their toes. All right, and this is going to give us a false representation. The other thing is people reach way, way, way out in front of themselves. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that the legs remain really straight. We want to think about pushing the hips back as far as we can through space. We want to reach directly down to our toes. So there's toe touch from the side. We're going to repeat the same thing from behind. And then we're going to repeat from the front. All right, that's the toe touch test.
The next 3 assessments require both a side view and a top view. I would recommend doing all side views first so you have a similar camera angle, and then set yourself up for a top view so you don't have to go back and forth between the two.
The next assessment piece that we're going to look at is going to be shoulder flexion. We're going to do this lying on our back. So how we get set up is our legs are going to be in a bent position. We're going to lie on our back, okay? And the testing arm, we want to be closer to the camera, so we're going to have to flip sides after we test the left. We get set up by making sure our arm is close to our side, okay, and this hand is fully externally rotated or supinated at our side. We can take our opposite hand, place it on our ribs, and this is going to tell us when the test ends. As soon as we feel our ribs come up, if we feel our back arching, that means the test is over. So from this position, rotate that hand, keep it close to your side, and we're going to lift up. Now, as soon as the ribs start to pull up, that's when the test ends. Okay, we're going to then switch sides. Get set up in the same position, okay? Turn that hand all the way over. We're going to clamp down with the opposite arm, and we're going to lift up. And as soon as those ribs lift up, that's when the test ends. Now we're going to take a look at a different vantage point and look at a couple other things that will tell us that the test has ended. Ensure that when we're setting up for the top view for the shoulder flexion test, that you can see the arm go all the way through its arc, so we can see if there's any deviations from midline as we're performing the exercise. The next test that we're going to be performing is the straight leg raise test to assess our hip range of motion. So what we're going to do is we're going to lie on the ground and we're going to get set up. So we want to make sure that we have a wall or something to push into. If you don't have a wall or something to push into, we want to make sure that we're pushing our heel down and keeping our feet straight to ensure that the test is valid. So feet are shoulder width apart. You're going to lie down, make sure that you push into the wall. From this position, we're going to test in one of 2 ways. If we do score a 2 on the Apley's test, we get to use our hand as a measure for where to stop the test. So if I'm testing on the left side, I'm going to make sure my feet are nice and straight. I'm going to push my right foot into the wall, and then I'm going to lift my left leg up as high as I can until my lower back right there pushes into my hand. So we want to stop the test as soon as our lower back pushes into the hand, or we start to bend the knee, or the leg starts to deviate out to the side. We're going to be able to determine this a lot better from the top angle, which we're going to go through next. Make sure that you repeat this for both sides. When performing the top view straight leg raise assessment, we want to make sure that the feet are nice and square and that we can see the hip go through its full arc range of motion. From this position, again, make sure to press into the wall, keep that leg straight, and go through the full range of motion. The next test is going to be a hip flexion test. We're going to set this up the exact same way as the straight leg raise test, so we can actually do these tests back to back relatively efficiently. So we're going to start lying on our back. Feet are again shoulder width apart. We want to make sure that we can push into the wall. Again, if we're unable to push into the wall, then we want to make sure that we're pushing down with the opposite leg that we're testing. All right, so from this position, I push into the wall, and then I'm going to track my knee straight towards my nose, and as soon as I get blocked in the front of the hip, okay, then I'm going to stop the test. All right, the biggest mistake that people make when performing this test is they start too wide and then they're able to get this up really, really far. So again, to complete the test, we want the knee to come right towards the nose, right foot pushed into the wall, comes up, and then we're going to finish the test by hugging the knee into the chest. Okay? We're going to repeat on both sides, and we want to make sure that we get this from the side profile as well as the top angle. When performing the top view hip flexion assessment, we want to make sure that we're pressing our feet firmly into the wall and that that knee is coming directly towards the nose. We don't want to go offline in the scenario. Make sure that you go through the full range of motion, pull your knee into the chest, and that's going to finish the test. For the infrasternal angle test, we're going to have to get a top view of this. It's a little bit difficult unless you have a really tall tripod, so it's best to get someone else to take the video. But how we're going to set this up is we want the camera directly over top of us, and we're going to get a good idea of what this ribcage looks like by going to the top. So walk your fingers all the way to the top of your ribs, okay? And then you're going to spread your ribs out, okay? And you're going to kind of tuck underneath so you get a good representation of that angle. And what we're going to do is we're going to take the sides of our hand and we're going to scoop, so we're going to get a second look at this. So go all the way up to the top, and you're going to scoop your hands underneath those ribs, stay nice and tight to them, and you're going to hold that position, all right? Now, it's best to probably do this without your shirt on. If you're uncomfortable with that, just make sure that you have something that's tight-fitting so we can really kind of see that angle. Now, lastly, what we're going to do is we're just going to do a couple breaths here so we can see whether or not the rib cage is dynamic in its movement. So hands just off to the side. I'm in a knee flex position from here. I'm going to take a breath in. Soft inhale through the nose, and then we're just going to do a soft sigh out. Let's go 2 to 3 breath cycles, nice and slow. Don't force the inhale. You want this to be relatively relaxed, and that's how we assess the infrasternal angle.
Thank you for completing the movement assessment. The last piece that I need you to do is combine all the footage into a singular video. Make sure that the tests that had both side view and top view go side by side with one another. Make sure to cut out any unwanted video footage. Once that's all done, review the video footage, make sure that all the tests are there and it covered all the points that I asked for in this video. Once that's done, send that off to me and I will try to get that analyzed as soon as possible.